Hey guys, there's some ringing going on with my microphone this episode, so hope you guys don't mind. I'm working on fixing it, but hopefully it doesn't ruin your guys' experience. I'll see you guys in a second. Hey, hello YouTube, Trademark Kill here, and today we have another RWBY Talk video for episode 9 of Volume 4, and today we're just going to get this out of the way as soon as we start. I did not expect this type of episode because they've always been, for the entire season, they've been subliminally, showcasing how the characters are separated by never showing all four characters in one episode. And this is the first episode of the season where we got all four characters in the same episode. So I did not really expect that, but with that becomes a lot of lore bombs, a lot of knowledge that we're going to talk about here today. So right off the bat, we're going to start talking about Yang and her excelling, becoming back to the fighter we know her as. And with her new arm, it's becoming very evident that, at least with the hand-to-hand combat part of her training, she's becoming very good. She even bested her father up at a point towards the end of the sparring session we had in the episode. But we haven't moved to weapon training yet, which could be a huge thing because as far as we know, she only has one of her gauntlets, or bracers, or whatever. Probably bracers would have been the better term. Her Ember Celica or Celica or Amber, whichever one that one is, or if it's just Ember Celica in general, I'm not sure. But we do know that she only has one, but that could leave her other hand open, her new hand, her robot hand, to have some sort of upgraded version, or just use that as kind of a doom fist of punching and like her destruction hand, her pimp hand, if you want to call it that. But we get a lot of information about her mom from Tai Yang, and we found out that her mom was one of the reasons that their team fell apart because of her arrogance, her strong-headed personality. She was one of the reasons that the team fell apart, Team Stark, and that's actually kind of a huge situation because that could have a pretty decent impact on the thought process of Yang, or how her perception. And we might come back to it, or it might be kind of some sort of foreshadowing for later. But we've already seen some of the things with Yang's mom, Raven, that do show that she is very much who Tai says she is in terms of her, hard-headedness and her perception of strength in the world of Remnant that we have seen so far. So it makes a lot of sense of what he said. It was great to actually have that open line of communication. And her father and Tai Yang finally kind of acknowledged Yang as an adult, because we had that argument before when Bartholomew Oobleck and Peter Port were visiting the house. We had that argument, so it's kind of nice to see that development when it comes to the Tai Xiaolong clan family, whatever you want to call it. From there, we go to Weiss, who I believe I said at some point that in one of the first episodes we saw Weiss's brother, and I believe I called him a very respectful stand-up type of person. Fuck that shit. He is a douchebag. But not only that, but we see her kind of training montage go further with Weiss, and we finally see her full summon, that suit of armor that was showcased in the white trailer with some more modifications to bring it up to snuff in terms of the modern animation detail and quality that we have that's went from the white trailer to now. So it's slightly different. I believe it also looks drastically shorter too. Could just be a minor detail, but who knows? But that's still really cool that we finally got that, and I was so hyped. And odds are that the butler, Klein, I believe that's his name, is going to be the kind of catalyst of how she escapes, which is going to be pretty interesting oh, hey, look, a dog. You'll probably see him in a second as he jumps up on the bed. He's going to be pretty interesting in the development of what's going on and how she escapes and releases herself from the family mansion. But with that, we move forward to kind of the more dire situations with Blake. She is chasing the spy who turns out to be Ilya, which I believe the two Fox brothers, when they went to visit the Blake family household, mentioned her at one point. But this is not good. They get into a fight, and ends up that apparently either Sun's semblance takes up a ton of his aura, or he just doesn't have a lot of aura in terms to fuel his semblance. But he takes a pretty dire hit and ends up going down. Doesn't look too bad, to be honest. I think this might be a little bit of a over-exaggeration by Sun, or the fact that she was cut open with a whip, and also electrocuted, might have kind of had a hard hit, might have taken him out of commission for a little bit, because of kind of just knocked him silly mentally, and he's out. I don't think it's that bad. It doesn't look that bad. Blake really sold it like it was looking bad, so it possibly might be an editing mistake or some sort of like unfinished thing, because even when the Yang situation was going on, where Zwei was in the yard, kept jumping around and was very inconsistent. So it's possible it was supposed to be more gruesome than it was, and there was a little bit of inconsistency with what happened. But the Sun is down, which opens up the 1v1 with Adam if he's down and out of commission for a while. So that lineup for the story is in check for the 1v1 with Adam. If that's going to be what's happening, unless Adam's just going to take out every single fucking person in the village, like fucking executioner style, it's still possible. But if there is going to be a 1v1 with Adam, it is open up now because Sun's out of commission, and also that Blake has Ilya's scroll, which could have Adam's information, which is a way to contact Adam, which would then be open up Blake to contact Adam, say we can finish this fight, but away from the village, and that's when they go into the desert to have their fight. Possibly, there's a lot of stuff that can happen there. They set that up and gave her a little bit more information, teasing that, because we've had a lot of information with Blake, so they didn't give as much information as they did with Weiss or Yang, but we teased that. We got that set up for the final 3 episodes coming up probably after the World of Remnant next week, because this is episode 9. That only leaves us with RWBY and Team Ranger as they are traveling across the paths. They finally come to a crossroads that leads them to Mistral. However, the path seems like it goes up in the mountain, and they don't think Crow will survive that trek. So they split up, which is already the worst decision you can make in this world. Splitting up is a terrible idea, especially when you have one that's basically someone who is possibly Grim food, you know what I mean? So it turns out that Jean and RWBY carry Crow around the mountain as to try and make it to Mistral, as Nora and Ren go up the mountain to try and get there faster to get help. And what's going to happen is if they find somewhere else, they'll cut off RWBY and go to somewhere else that could provide help. This is probably one of the bigger speculative moments, because when they split up finally, we see that RWBY and Jean are going down a path, and we get a glimpse of the ground where their footsteps are left, and we see that giant footprint-esque thing that we saw a couple episodes back when they went to the first burned down village. We saw that footprint again going that way that they're heading. So we could have that confrontation now, which means it's not looking good for Crow, but also we're going to have to see RWBY turn out some really super powers, you know what I mean, to be able to even hold that Grim off, because the size of that Grim looks ginormous, and it's going to be a very tough fight for RWBY. So in order to have that, we're probably going to get some Silver Eyes actions again, probably towards the end of the volume, to conclude the Team Ranger portion of the volume at least. We're going to get that, but I don't think RWBY's going to be strong enough to take whatever it is down or finish the fight. What I think is going to happen more likely is that she's going to be able to hold it off just enough for Ren, Nora, and whoever from Mistral, whatever huntsman they could find from Mistral, to come and save the day. I don't think we're going to book, in this, using the term book like in wrestling terms, we're going to not going to make RWBY look that strong just yet. Worst case scenario, Crow does die, and we have a flip in the world where Yang comes out and leaves home as RWBY comes back to home to announce that Crow's dead. That's a possibility that we have going into later volumes. But I don't know how keen they will be on killing one character every in 2 consecutive volumes. So because I don't think they want to be too predictable, but I do think they are willing to put people's head on the chopping block. And sorry, technically 2 people died volume 3 if you count Penny. But there's still the possibility that they can save Penny by putting her aura in another bot. We don't know yet. But what we have is they could possibly be killing Crow off. I don't think so. I do want to say he's too much of a beloved character, but we've seen what they do to beloved characters in the show. We don't want to give them the game. We don't want to get the Game of Thrones vibe here. So it's possible that they do kill off Crow. It's possible that they don't. How predictable do they want to be? Do they want to set that precedent that one character is going to die per season? And or is Sun really that hurt that Sun might be the one that goes and dies? Is it possible that both of them die? Because you got to remember, they said the same thing with Team Sun that they did with Team Juniper. They weren't supposed to be around that long, but people liked them, and they kept the characters around. So it's possible, but there's going to slowly axe away the characters that weren't needed in the long run. Maybe Crow's one of them, maybe he's not. But it's possible that Sun's also the one who's going to be on the chopping block for this season. We have yet to find out, but we have a beautiful setup going into the final quarter of the season with 10, 11, and 12. We're going to have to see what they want to do, if they want to start giving a theme of characters dying at least once or twice per volume. Or if they want to set up this idea that, but again, they've always kind of they've always kind of built this predictability element up, where you can kind of watch volumes 1 and 2 for the first time, and by volume 2 you're like, okay, this is gonna happen. This is what's gonna happen. They're gonna win. This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. It wasn't until volume 3 where you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen for sure. That's what's been happening all the entire series, and then they cut you off at the kneecaps, and you're like, no, this is where we break the mold in terms of what happens. So it's entirely possible that they start creating a theme of characters dying in order to kind of build that suspense of what character is going to die next, because I believe that's also one huge thing with Game of Thrones, where character is going to die, what character is going to die next. So it's possible that they build that theme up. But thank you guys for watching. As always, hopefully I kept this video pretty short. I'm looking at my timeline in Audacity, and I'm like, oh god, it's 15 minutes, but hopefully I can edit this down to something a wee bit more respectable. So like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, Streamer goes out. Peace.